Hi guys, this is RJ with Chesapeake Motorworks. Today we're going to be doing a coolant reservoir in my 335i. I decided to blow up the other day while we're getting parts for the 135i. I'll try to show you over here where there's coolant up in the shock mount. You can kind of see some splatter on the engine cover as well. So we're going to see what's going on there. Thankfully we do have a brand new one in stock in the garage. Let's see what this looks like. Ew, that's nasty. Now, thankfully, you would typically associate this kind of mess with a head gasket, but on these cars, they're pretty well known for it, and usually what it is the oil filter housing gasket, which on this car is A, leaking, and B, hasn't been done yet. So I've got those parts as well inside the garage, and I need to get those done. However, Cliff kind of used my belt tensioner, so I have to order one of those before we can do it, because every time you do this, you tend to make a mess all over the belts, and I'd rather just replace everything at once. Alright, so we're looking at the new one over here, and what we see is there's an electrical connector here, presumably for the float. We've got a bottom hose, which you can see on the old one down there. We've got an expansion tank hose nipple, which is right up here, and then we have this third nipple that I'm not really sure what it is, but we'll find out. This looks like a pretty easy job, and I'm just going to go ahead and guess these are 10mm. And we've got a Milwaukee impact already. It's got 10mm on it, and it does appear to be correct. If you don't have one of these things, they're amazing, and I'm not sponsored by them. Alright. Get these bolts out of the way. Unclip this vacuum hose. Looks like some more clips here. And right now, there shouldn't be a heck of a lot holding this in. You can see it just feels like it wants to pull up. Yeah, there we go. Hooked on a wire down there. I'll also try and do this one-handed, so I want to take this off at some point. Okay, so that nipple, you can't see it. Okay, that nipple, which is going to be super blown out, but you can see it, that's just not connected to anything. So all we got to do is pop these little metal clips up, which you need a screwdriver for. I've got a pick here, a screwdriver, a pick, anything really. Works just fine. You stick it in this little loop, you just pull up carefully. Okay, so you just kind of pull up on it like that, and you can see it sticking up in the air. That means it's ready to come off. Now, these old hoses, the most common parts to break on these cars are the ends of the hose. There's an O-ring in there, and this plastic bit, it gets brittle. Now, to be fair, if you break it, you should probably replace it anyway. Like, if it's on the brittle side, it really shouldn't be on the car anymore and in service. Okay, so you can probably see the end, it's starting to become exposed there, and it just pops off like that. When you put these back on, you need to be sure to lubricate the O-ring that's inside, or else it's really easy to tear it putting it back in, and then the thing's going to leak. Alright. Well, that was entertaining. Should have left the camera on, because what I did is I unplugged this thing, and of course a huge rush of coolant came out of that bottom hose. It's probably where the majority of the coolant came out of, actually. The coolant that was in this old expansion tank mostly stayed in the expansion tank as long as it's at that angle. And I also had to disconnect the electrical connector at the bottom. That was pretty easy. So what I tried to do is I took the old expansion tank out and I popped this one in as soon as I could to try and eliminate the coolant from leaking out. And of course, when I did that, this ear grabbed the strap on my camera that I had laying up here, and it pulled it down into the engine bay, so that was just wonderful. And now I've got the puddle of antifreeze leaking from underneath my car, but we'll get that cleaned up. When I finish plugging everything in, fill her up with brand new coolant, and I do use Prestone, the green stuff. I don't actually use the BMW stuff on my vehicles. It's perfectly fine that way. But in case anyone accuses me of being super cheap, I actually do have genuine BMW coolant as well. I just don't use it in my own cars. Okay, I found out the plastic nipple on the bottom actually seats into a mount, so that's the third part of the support for this expansion tank, and I just put the 2 screws in, just a hand tighten for right now. Then we're gonna use the Milwaukee, and I'm thinking a Milwaukee 1 is probably the proper torque on this. So we're gonna tighten it down like that. So that's done. Now, what I need to do is, I think I might add some coolant first, but I need to lube the inside of this and just pop it on here. I need to steal the clips off the old expansion tank to put my vacuum lines back in place. And we'll add coolant in it, loosen the bleeder screw, just like that. So it's got a path for air to escape. We'll fill her up and start the bleed procedure. Bleeding these cars couldn't be any easier. When the stick, the float there, is sticking up above the cap, that means you're a little bit overfilled on coolant, and that's good. Then we're going to get inside the car and we're going to actuate the electric water pump to initiate the automated bleeding process. I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to put the key in the ignition. I'm going to press without hitting the brake. The start stop button once. I have my headlights off. And then I'm going to put the heater in high. And then I'm going to press the gas pedal all the way down for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I heard it start about 5 seconds ago. Now I'm going to walk around because you don't really want to close the door. I think it stops the process. You can hear it running. And it kind of runs on a cycle. So it'll run fast and it'll run slow. You can hear it. It's coming out of the bleed screw there. So I'm going to tighten that down. And you actually need to get that bleed screw fairly tight, because on my 540 I didn't, and then that one looked like I had a disaster with the new radiator and expansion tank, but it was just that. Now, we'll see inside. You might be able to see, I don't know if I can go in brighter. You can see how there's a stream onto the stick. It's going to bleed all the air bubbles out. We'll let that run for about 10 minutes or so, and we'll make sure that we keep the level in this at least this high. And after that, we're all done. So this job is complete. Just, it's cleanup after this. Back in the E90 with the new coolant tank, we're going to take it out for test spin and see if the coolant temperatures are good. And to do this, I'm going to use my app, and with any luck it will just work. The alignment's a little off here, so the top number is actually coolant and the bottom number is going to be oil. So right now we're at 83 degrees, 84, and 87 on the oil. So I'm going to take it out for a spin and get it up to temperature, then check to make sure everything doesn't blow up. Alright, the temperatures are now 195 for water and 194 for the oil. I'm pretty confident it's not going to blow up at this point. I'm just kind of sitting in a parking lot. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Also hit that bell so that you don't miss any future videos. Thanks. Goodbye.